Welcome to Lindamood-Bell Radio. I'm Dave Hungerford. Lindamood-Bell helps students of all ages and abilities learn to their potential. Whether your child needs to catch up or get ahead, our unique, evidence-based instruction can help. We develop the imagery language foundation that's necessary for reading, comprehension, and math. Each student has a personalized plan tailored to their needs. Students attend in person or live online. Either way, our engaging, dynamic instruction helps kids make years of progress in just a few weeks. Learn more and get started at lindamoodbell.com or call us at 800-233-1819. Today's episode is a webinar from Our Families to Yours, Parent Insights on Online Instruction. You can hear some of my colleagues talk about their family's experience receiving online instruction, as well as the research findings on its effectiveness. Here it is.
Hello, I'm Beth Nations, Director of Learning Centers for Lindamood-Bell Learning Processes. Thank you so much for joining us today for our forum, Parent Insights and Research on Online Instruction at Lindamood-Bell. Today, I'd like to tell you a little bit about Lindamood-Bell, including our online instruction that we have delivered for the past 8 years, even before COVID. We'll also hear from Alyson, whose daughter Emmy did online instruction, and Paul Worthington, our Director of Research and Development, will share student results for online and in-center instruction so that you can see how those compare with one another. I'd like to tell you a little more about Lindamood-Bell before we talk about online instruction specifically. In 1986, our founders, Patricia Lindamood and Nancy Bell, came together to form Lindamood-Bell Learning Processes. And one thing that differentiates Lindamood-Bell from other educational service providers is that we don't focus so much on content or teaching students subject matter. Instead, our focus is on sensory cognitive functions, or the skills that underlie a student's ability to read and comprehend. I'll give you some examples. If a student is struggling with reading or calling words correctly on the page, then he or she is likely to do our Seeing Stars program, which develops the sensory cognitive functions of phonemic awareness and symbol imagery. Phonemic awareness refers to the brain's ability to identify the number, order, and identity of sounds within words, and symbol imagery is our ability to correctly represent those sounds with the right letters. And this can happen at a very, very basic level. You can think of a word like cat, 3 sounds, 3 letters. If we have good symbol imagery, we know it's a C at the beginning and not a K. And then, of course, this goes into very complex levels. If you think about textbooks and science vocabulary or names and novels. And so this program is able to develop phonemic awareness and symbol imagery at a very low level, if that's where a student needs to begin, all the way up to adult reading material. And we've had the honor of working with many adult students who have increased their reading ability phenomenally through the Seeing Stars program. Now, some students, though, can read well, but not comprehend. It's often taken for granted that if a student gets the words on the page right, they'll just understand what they're reading, but that's definitely not the case. Some students struggle with comprehension, and the sensory cognitive function that improves comprehension and underlies our ability to comprehend is called concept imagery. So that's the ability to image or visualize concepts and action in our mind. If you've ever gone to see a movie after reading a book and you've thought, that's not quite right, that's not how I would have cast the movie, or that's not what happened in the book, then you know you've been visualizing what you were reading in the book and you're able to compare that with what you see on the screen. And just like our Seeing Stars program, the visualizing and verbalizing program for comprehension and critical thinking starts at a very low level because some of our students have a hard time imaging even a single word, all the way up to an adult level where students are processing entire paragraphs and pages of information as well as textbook chapters. And so students will work with Lindamood-Bell intensively to develop these sensory cognitive functions. This is not something that we do just a couple of days a week. We see students 5 days a week for 2 to 4 to even 6 hours a day. And students come for any number of weeks that they need based on the learning ability evaluation and their learning profile. Sometimes that might be 4 weeks or 6 weeks or even 12 weeks. And until 2017, students often had to move to a Lindamood-Bell center or a city with a Lindamood-Bell center to get this kind of intensive instruction. I mean, the whole family would just pick up their life and go from one state to another state so that the student could get weeks at a time of Lindamood-Bell instruction. But that changed in 2017 when we started offering online instruction. And that allowed students to be able to stay at their home. Some of them still continue going to school while getting instruction, and we could serve them in the comfort of their own home. And so we had long been working online with students by the time that COVID hit. However, COVID did help us continue refining our processes and give us the opportunity to scale that service to a much larger audience. And now we see students for online instruction from cities, states, countries all over the world. So I would like to have you hear from a parent about what Lindamood-Bell online instruction can look like.
I think we were skeptical when we came on board because I think anybody would be. It's virtual. You don't really know what to expect. How is my child gonna react to the amount of time per session in front of the computer? And then is she gonna retain the information? Well, and I think that did ease some of the concern when Kyle, when we initially met with Kyle, she was like, we didn't just start doing online learning because of COVID. Like, we've been doing this and we have a system in place. So I think that also really eased a lot of our concerns with it being a virtual learning situation, to know that this wasn't y'all's first rodeo, that you had been doing and it wasn't just a reaction to COVID. So we got about 5.5 weeks done, but I think really right from the get-go, when she went back to school, we could instantly see there was massive improvement. She had her first phonics test, which in first grade, I don't know that she made above 75 on any phonics test. When she had her first test in second grade, she was at about 60 to 65 words per minute at about 90% accuracy. So just that, we were like, oh my gosh, she doesn't even have to learn anymore. And we're thrilled. But as she completed the Seeing Stars program, she was reading about 75 words per minute at 100% accuracy. We've never been to a center, but we have seen just massive improvements with her confidence, with her grades, and most importantly, with her reading.
I'd like to introduce you to Alyson Lazetsky. Alyson is a longtime employee of Lindamood-Bell. She's worked in our learning centers in the Georgia area, and she's also held various roles at the corporate level. Alyson's daughter, Emmy, completed instruction with Lindamood-Bell, and all of her sessions were done online. Welcome, Alyson. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks so much for having me.
Tell us a little bit about yourself and your family, and especially Emmy, please.
Yeah, absolutely. I have been with Lindamood-Bell going on 12 years now. I thought this would be a summer job, right? A year or two out of college. And here I am still. I have thoroughly enjoyed all of it. The different roles, the changes you see in the students, the environment, everything has been amazing. I'm the proud mom of 3 kiddos. Emmy is my youngest at 7 now. She was 5 when she completed instruction. Kinsey is 12 and Owen is 10. Kinsey and Owen are great, very gifted kiddos. Emmy is that kind of the joke that you always hear, you see on the internet about the third kid, how she kind of breaks all the rules. The mold broke with her. That is Emerson. She is a little firecracker. She is so stubborn, but also the sweetest, kindest kiddo that I have the pleasure of knowing, for sure.
So you had seen your older children move through school already, and then when Emmy got into school, what was different? How did you know to look a little more deeply with her?
Yeah. So Kenzie and Owen, I don't think I ever practiced a spelling word. We never looked at sight words list. Whatever the school was able to accomplish was really working well for them. They were maintaining the information. They were able to go through it without really any help. Um, Emmy, Emmy was, like I said, she broke the mold. She was late in gaining any language, about two and a half. She had about 10 words that they call a stranger listener could understand. And so we started speech therapy early. We're still going through that process. But we think that could have had a little bit of impact on things. But we realized in pre-K, she was always just a little touch behind. We had those conversations with the pre-K teacher, with the kindergarten teacher, that she just wasn't really maintaining where her peers were. And coming through, I guess it was through midway through kindergarten, right about Christmas time, Emmy made a comment about her gumball machine not being full. And that kind of relates to the way the teacher handles it. And they place gumballs in an empty, you start the school year with an empty gumball machine, and you place gumballs in it as your graduating sight word list. And Emmy was still on list 1 going through Thanksgiving break right into Christmas. And she had noticed the difference in her gumball machine and everybody else's. And so we started having, I think, a more serious conversation about how far behind are we? Is it something that we're able to make up in the classroom? Is it going to require some extra intervention? And that's really what kind of started our thoughts through. Obviously, I knew where to go. I knew who to reach out to, but that's really where the turning point for us was.
Okay. So once you identified that Emmy did need some extra remediation, of course, you said you knew who to call. And the first step for all of our students is the Lindamood-Bell Learning Ability Evaluation. So what did Emmy's test show, and what kind of recommendations did it yield based on her strengths and weaknesses?
Yeah, so it showed what we knew, that Emmy was smart. Emmy has an amazing vocabulary. She will pull words out that you never imagined that a 5, 6, 7-year-old would ever use, and using them in the right context. So we knew she had the ability to learn. The option was there for her to learn. It was all showing a reading deficiency. There was a little something there in the reading that just wasn't hitting home quite as well. And so we had. So we knew that. We sat down with the center director in one of the Georgia Learning Centers, and they recommended the Seeing Stars program, which of course was focusing just on her reading, phonemic awareness, those pieces. And we were told it would take anywhere from 60 to 100 hours of instruction to get her to where she should be.
Okay. So 60 to 100 hours, if we were talking about a tutoring session or 2 a week, could last a really long time. But Emmy did Lindamood-Bell's model of intensive instruction. Can you tell us a little bit about what a day looked like while she was in instruction?
Yeah, absolutely. We, as a family, we sat down and thought through how we were going to figure this out. It's a big, it can be a big logistic challenge, right? Multiple kids, daily instruction, but knowing the priority needed to be on Emmy and knowing that was important for her, we decided that she was going to come during her school day. We knew that the instruction she was receiving at school wasn't enough. So she would go to school, she would do the morning, and then we would check her out, and she would come home and she would do 3 hours of instruction. And then she would go back. And so she still had the fun of school. She was still able to hang out with her friends and peers and all of those good things, but she was making great gains at home, on the computer through her online instruction. So she did about 15 hours a week I think we did that for 4 to 5 weeks throughout that last part of kindergarten for her.
Okay. What was her instructional experience like? Did she look forward to those 3 hours a day, or was it tricky for her to come home and be on the computer?
Yeah. Emmy was stubborn. So she was not always my biggest fan when I was checking her out from school. But the second she sat down in front of the computer, it was almost like that switch happened, and she was having so much fun. She was learning, she was being challenged. but they were doing it in a manner that was keeping her engaged, and her attention was right there. For Emmy to sit and do anything for 3 hours during the day, even a movie, I think is almost impossible for Emerson. And they were able to keep her attention. They were able to keep her focused right where it was by mixing up things, by challenging her, by incorporating games and prizes and all the fun stuff that I think everybody needs to stay connected to it.
Well, what you're describing is absolutely Lindamood-Bell's live online instruction. It's what we've been refining since 2017 and what we can now offer all over the world. Some of the experiences that people had with online instruction during COVID, especially when it was so new for so many schools and systems, it wasn't a positive one. As you picture teachers trying to engage full classrooms over Zoom, or videos being shown instead of live teaching. So I think a lot of people still associate those negative experiences with online instruction, but as you've described, live online at Lindamood-Bell is very different. Did you feel in any way like Emmy was missing out by not being in the center, or that anything about her instruction was different than it had been if it weren't online, than it would have been?
Yeah, no, I don't think she missed out on anything. Emmy was a little young for the COVID year, so she didn't really have the school, but her older sister and brother, those classes were tough. It was just tough. I don't know a better way to describe that, right? But Emmy was able to log in. She was doing it on her all by herself. She knew where the link was. She knew to get her document camera plugged in. She knew to get her headphones on. Like, she knew the drill. She was doing all of that when I had to make the special snack, because she got a special Lindamood-Bell snack every day. And so she knew it, and she thought it was special. During COVID, Emmy was doing speech therapy, and that was, I think, a hot mess. But she really connected, and the clinicians that we have on the other side of the computer are so well trained that they're able to just move those skills almost seamlessly between being in person with their student or being online with their student. There was very little difference in the two, and I don't think she missed out on anything. If anything, it was a gain, because geographically we are about 30 miles from a learning center, but that time in the Atlanta metro area, that would be an hour and 15 minutes in the car for her, one way. And that's all takes a lot out. And so if we're already asking her to do something that's pretty hard for her brain, so asking her to do that after school or after an hour plus car ride, that's a lot. So I think we even got more out of her, her productivity doing it online.
Yeah, that's a great point that I hadn't thought of. Tell us, if you will, about the growth that you witnessed in Emmy while she was completing instruction.
Yeah, Emerson caught up. Emmy was right where she was supposed to be at the end of kindergarten. She had about 2 weeks left of school, and so she was adding those colors to her gumball. As she went into first grade, she maintained everything over the summer. We were practicing at home, but she actually wanted to pick up books. She wanted to read the chapter books that her brother and sister had left. So she was able to keep a lot of that up herself over the summer. And as we went into first grade, she was achieving all of the things that they were asking for her. They do different milestone parties, for lack of a better word, at that age, right? And she had never really achieved those milestones. So there were days that other kids would be doing fun glow stick parties or outdoor snack parties, and Emmy wasn't able to attend because she hadn't achieved, so many sight word lists marked off, or so many AR points, or whatever that is. And Emmy was able to do that in first grade. And I think that was a huge confidence boost for her.
Oh, I'm so glad. How's she doing now?
She's great. She has started reading all of the books. We have to go to the library once or twice a week. She still pulls from all of the tips and tricks that she learned, the air writing pieces, the taking pictures, and using her camera. You'll see her with her spelling list. She'll take a picture of it with her camera. So all of the things that she was taught and went through, she's still applying now, well into second grade.
That's awesome. We talked a little bit just before you and I started speaking about the Seeing Stars program, developing phonemic awareness and symbol imagery, and symbol imagery being that ability to really capture the right letters for a word and represent words not just phonetically, but orthographically correct or spelled correctly. So it sounds like Emmy absolutely is engaging her skills all the time and they're growing with her. And I'm so glad to hear that. Thank
Absolutely.
you for being willing to join us today. And thank you for being willing to share about your family and about Emmy's journey. I appreciate it so much.
Thank you for having me.
Now I'd like to show you a few students participating in online instruction sessions. Our instructors are trained to engage with students and they use a variety of materials, some digital and some physical, that are viewed on a document camera.
Okay, I'm going to show you this word. I want you to take a look at it. And I'm going to have you picture those letters, write them up in the air, and tell me what the word says. Ready?
P-O-R-C-H, pot.
Oh my goodness, that is so awesome. Change the P to a T.
Tot.
Awesome. What's the third letter you picture?
O.
You're right, there is no in there. Do you picture
Oh.
that? There you go. O is what number?
Huh?
Is O number 1 or number 2? For what letter you picture?
O is number 2.
Yeah, there you go. Okay. Let's try those are too easy for you. Let's do something. Okay, ready? Go ahead and write this one up in the air. Picture it.
Got it. S-T-M-P. Stump.
Oh my gosh, it does say stump. What letter do you see right after the T?
O.
We do have a vowel. If there was an O there, what would it say?
Nope. Snope. Snope.
I like how you're trying to get an O sound in there. It would say stomp. Let's check because you told me it said stump. What letter do you picture after the T in
Yeah.
stump? Yes.
Yeah.
Good job. So what's the second letter you see?
T.
Nice. What's the third letter you see?
U.
Yep. Okay, change that U to an A. What would it say?
Stamp. Stamp.
There you go. Good job. You put it all together. Okay. Let's do this one. Just read it.
Tate.
Awesome job. Tell me all the letters you see for Tate.
T-A-T-E.
Good job.
T-E.
Nice. Take off that E. What would it say?
Tat.
There you go. Great job. So good. Okay. Ready? Last one. Write this one up first.
M-U-S-H. Much.
Great job with that U saying, what do you picture after the U in much?
S-H.
We do have an SH. What sound does SH make?
Mush. Mush.
There you go. Do you like to eat mush or mush? Do you like to eat that? No. Me
I don't even
neither.
know what that is.
Yeah. What's the second letter you see in mush?
U.
What's the third letter you picture?
S.
Nice job, Emmy. Okay, let's do another one. Tell me the letters you picture in the word boat. Say the word
B.
back to me.
Boat. B-O. A or E?
Let me see you write it. Write it up and picture them. See which one
B.
looks right.
O. A-T. Boat.
So great.
If we were like, I see a bunch of boats, it would be an S at the end.
Oh, now you're just showing off. That was amazing. I love it. Okay, let's.
C-A-C-K-S.
Beautiful. What's that going to say?
Scats.
Skax. Good. Nice job on the X part. That's perfect. What was the first letter you saw in Skax?
Scat.
First letter.
Scats. Oh, C.
C. Totally. What sound does C make?
Cax.
Good. Nice fix, dude. Totally Cax. Well done. Oh my goodness, I'm almost out of stones here. I only got a couple left.
Understand.
Understand. That's fast. There we go. This one, here we go. 3, 2, 1, go.
Contain.
Nice, dude. You're flying through these. Here we go.
Correct.
Awesome.
Course.
Nice.
Surface.
Nice.
Carefully.
Oh my goodness.
Machine.
Nice.
Belt.
Oh, dude.
Fly.
Oh,
Ran.
jeez. Okay.
Drive.
Oh my goodness.
Finally. Noun. English.
Dude, I can't even keep up.
Noun.
Some parents might be hesitant to try online instruction because of concerns that their child might not benefit in the same way they would from in-center instruction. I've invited Paul Worthington, Director of Research and Development for Lindamood-Bell, to join us today to talk about some of the data we have on the efficacy of online instruction. Because we administer a pre-test and a post-test to each student before and after instruction, we have a large data set from which we can pull research to measure these results. Paul, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today. Let's take a look at the results you have for us.
Thanks. We have, as fate would have it, when the pandemic hit, we had already geared up and started online instruction because we had a number of families who were not close to our centers stretched across the United States and Australia, the UK, et cetera. So when the pandemic hit, we had to go full on in terms of all the kids that we were working with at the time. They couldn't come into our centers, so we continued with the online instruction. And since that time, we've continued in that endeavor. And so we've been able to accumulate a lot of online information. And from a quality standpoint, one of the big questions that we had is, can we maintain the fidelity and the quality of the instruction that we've been providing for students in that transition? And so we've done a rather robust analysis, and I'm just going to highlight some of the findings that we've incurred as a result of the work that we've been doing virtually with children.
Great, thank you.
Well, on that note, if we look at all the students, and by all the students, I mean in breaking it into general categories, for example, students who were decoding, who had primary decoding issues, including dyslexic students and so forth, students who had comprehension deficits, and then the combination of all of them, which is what you see here. And the results, if we look at this from a pre-test percentile standpoint, the results from that analysis has found differences between the pre-profiles of two instructional populations on these two measures. Generally, the populations were a little bit different, but it's important to know the distinction if there are any differences if we're going to do comparative analysis on any of the tests that we use. The two tests were fluency and vocabulary were slightly different from a statistical standpoint for all those students. On to look at the progress, they were analyzed on those differences. It's just an ANOVA test that takes a look at it. The numbers of students reported is based upon the students with a complete testing battery with at least 40 hours of instruction. I referred to the decoding students. So what happens, what's the comparative nature of the instruction for kids on the decoding side of things? In all these tests, what we see is that the standard score gains, if you look across there, visually it looks like they are precisely the same for all practical purposes. As it turns out, indeed, we did get comparable progress especially on those measures that are related to decoding. And you can see that the effect sizes were very large. The one that wasn't is vocabulary. Turns out, if you will remember from the previous slide, vocabulary was not an issue and instruction was not necessary in vocabulary. What about comprehension? Well, clearly, one of the things we're worried about is whether or not we can have an effect in comprehension with students online as compared to what it is that we know historically for students who have received instruction in comprehension for comprehension deficits in person. And by the way, all this data goes back to just the pre-pandemic, as I had indicated. So this data includes everything from 2017 through 2024. And again, what you can see for the language comprehension component are highly significant gains for both online as well as children who were receiving instruction in person. On the combined format, if we look at all of them together, here's what we found out is that across the board, and we were very pleased with this, by the way, that we've got comparable instruction both for children who are receiving instruction virtually, as well as children who are receiving instruction in person. I might add, if you notice up there on the standard score gains, is that we took a look at and controlled for the average hours of instruction between these two populations as well. So the difference being just a matter of a few hours, with in-person students actually having a little bit more hours. But from a statistical standpoint, those gains were comparable. So where does that leave us? Live online and in-person students tested significantly higher on post-instruction on all measures, including all those tests that we've taken a look at. So these results indicate that growth was comparable in progress between the three instructional groups, live, online, and instruction. And this is interesting because in contrast to the view that learning loss has been noted in a number of studies for children who had to stay home during the pandemic, that this analysis shows that significantly mean gains for the students that we've addressed in our centers over the years, and again, those years from 17 through 24, includes the full tenure of students served during the pandemic. The growth of students who have received online instruction are, in conclusion, comparable to gains receiving theirs. So both online and instruction, we're happy that we're able to continue that, especially for students who are don't have the advantage geographically of being close enough to come into one of our centers. I might add, just as a sidebar, we're very excited to be doing continued research. We've got an enormous U.S. Department of Education research that we just started in collaboration with the American Institute of Research, where we're now doing online professional development for 3 districts across the United States. And we're just beginning, the teachers are going to be doing the instruction in schools, only with the professional development being done virtually for teachers. We're very excited about that. Stay tuned.
Thank you, Paul. That's such important information. Have you identified any drawbacks for students receiving instruction virtually rather than in person?
One of them is an environmentally induced thing, and that is, it's really important. One of the caveats is that if a child is going to be receiving instruction virtually, that means that we have to have somebody at home to ensure that the child is actually online, not playing video games or doing whatever. So there is some oversight, but that would be the case from a clinical standpoint also, or from an intervention standpoint if the children were in school, or in one of our clinics. So that is an important consideration, and it's an additional environmental variable that we have to control for.
Absolutely. That makes sense. What do you think is the most exciting part of being able to improve reading for students in a virtual environment?
Well, I think I sort of mentioned that, but this is huge. There's no place, as long as the communication architecture is in place and the technology is available, the kind of instruction, the evidence-based instruction that we're offering is open to families anywhere. We're not limited by, say, the 50 centers that we have here in the United States, or in one of our professional development contracts in schools across the United States.
Fantastic. Is there anything else that you would like to add for parents who might be considering online instruction or weighing the pros and cons between online or driving to a center?
Well, the big one we've answered for up to and including the satisfactory standpoint from our standpoint. The fidelity of what it is that we're doing is absolutely is paramount to making sure that we're doing the right thing for children. And so, having answered that, the opportunity now is there for families across the United States, in English-speaking countries around the world, to receive the same kind of instruction that heretofore has not been available to them. And so we're very excited about that opportunity for families to have that before them as an additional option if their children are struggling with language processing and or cognitive processing issues.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us today, Paul. This is very important data, and we appreciate you sharing it and your explanations.
Yes, and I'll just end by saying you can if you have questions on this research or we're on the web, you can just send an email or call in, and we're happy to follow up on any additional information that you might want.
Definitely. Thank you again.
You bet.
Thank you all for joining us today. And as Paul stated, you can visit us online at lindamood-bell.com to learn more about our instruction, our research, online instruction specifically, and even our non-daily instruction for students who don't need remediation but are looking to get ahead. We'll wrap up today by hearing more about students' experience while engaging with our instructors online. Thank you again for joining us.
When we started with Lindamood-Bell, we did 100% of our instruction online, and it was incredibly attentive. The teachers met with us and updated us on everything. The kids were completely engaged with their teachers, had favorites, knew their names, painted them little gifts to send to Arizona. There was zero issue with being online. In fact, it made it very easy. They'd never done Zoom. We did as little media as humanly possible. So it was surprisingly smooth, and it's really because the instructors knew how to work it. Like, they are figuring out ways to engage the child constantly. The children became attached to their teachers and would be super excited when they would get days when a certain one was on. They trusted them. I had no idea how that was going to happen. I mean, there's kids that were just outside all the time, needing to really focus for that long on someone who's not in the room is a heavy lift, but they know how to do it.
And thank you for listening. You can reach us at our website, lindamood-bell.com, or call us at 800-233-1819. You can also follow us on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and X. We are Lindamood-Bell.